So we are talking about the movie Western World, which is also known as A Dead Husband in a Western Town, directed by Lana Reed. This is a very small-scale, low-budget Western movie, and despite the kind of what you might be expecting from a Western, it's really not a kind of a shoot-'em-up. It's actually a kind of police investigation into a murder that just happens to be in the Old West. So essentially we have the body of a dead guy turns up, and a suspect in custody, and this US Marshal kind of rolls into town at the request of the sheriff, and he's basically kind of gets involved in the investigation, and obviously different things kind of get revealed. We learn that various kind of citizens of this kind of particular town may have some kind of dark secrets that they want uncovered. So about 3/4 of this movie focuses on this kind of investigation and basically unravelling who the killers are and looking at the clues and stuff like that. So it's a very kind of talky movie in regards to that. And then the last quarter actually deals with something else. It kind of deals with this corrupt businessman. So that has a kind of almost like a little separate story at the end, which is a kind of bizarre. So it definitely doesn't follow the kind of 3-act structure there. So let's discuss Western World. So it's a different type of Western. If you've kind of seen the kind of the sprawling, West, or the kind of like the tumbling grasslands and the deserts, you're not going to get any of that here. It's all filmed in one town, which looks suspiciously like it may have been filmed in one of these kind of theme Western kind of like attractions that you get in the kind of in theme parks and stuff like that. It kind of looks like that. So I'm wondering if it was genuinely filmed in maybe like a Western sort of style theme park, because it kind of has that feel to it, I've got to say. So it's clearly very low budget, but it's a very kind of slow moving, talky film. So if you're wanting shootouts, varmints, gunslingers, all that kind of stuff, it's not going to be here. It's a very different style of Western film that I've ever really seen before. On the plus side, I feel it kind of maybe has a different sort of look at a Western, maybe a style of Western that you've never experienced before. And I kind of quite like the character of the Marshal. He actually is kind of a bit of a badass. He kind of rolls into town, and he's very good at his job at kind of deducing what's happened in regards to the kind of the crimes. So it almost reminds me of a police procedural, but based in the Old West. So it's a fascinating concept, I've got to say. Something I don't recall ever really seeing before. So that was actually quite fun. But like I said, I feel people wanting a particular style of Western will be disappointed by this. I've got to say the acting here seems quite on an amateurish level for a lot of the cast. It does seem that people don't seem particularly confident in their kind of acting abilities, and it kind of shows through on screen. Maybe with a couple of exceptions, but for the majority of the cast, like I said, it just seems that the people's line delivery here, for example, seems like they're maybe thinking about it too much, and you can kind of see it on their face a little bit. So the acting here isn't brilliant, but it is a character piece first and foremost. It's a low budget character piece. There's not a lot of depth in it, to be honest, but I still quite like some of the kind of the charm that it has with some of its kind of like its characters, and it has a really quite good tracking shot at the beginning of the movie, where it's kind of all one take, and you see this kind of all these kind of denizens coming out and doing different things. And for a low budget film, I actually thought it was quite a strong directorial choice, to be honest, and it kind of shows you this kind of this whole town as well. I feel like it could have been a little bit more to it, if I'm honest. It just seems to be sort of a very small, it's like a day in the life of, basically. This movie is like a day in the life of a small Western town that happens to have a kind of murder in it. So that's really it. It just kind of shows like a sort of snapshot of what life may have been like through a certain kind of lens, through a kind of TV style lens. Because this is the thing, this movie does seem like it's a TV episode of network television, basically. So if you can imagine a network Western TV show, this happens to be an episode where there was a murder, you can imagine what this movie's like. So overall, I've got to say, I actually still quite find the characters fairly intriguing, and I was still quite invested in the kind of the murder mystery. But I feel you must go into this movie with certain expectations. I don't feel if you went into this movie expecting the good, the bad, and the ugly, or something like that, you'll be sorely disappointed. And some of the kind of the feedback I've seen online, that's kind of what it is. But I think you have to kind of look at the film for what it is rather than what you kind of want it to be. So I actually still quite enjoyed it. Very, very small scale, almost like a play. It's basically like a play. Nonetheless, it is a very small scale film. I don't feel it would be for the majority of Western fans. Therefore, I'll give it a 4 out of 10, slightly below average. But I do think it has some kind of charm to it, and I do feel it's the story on its own. If you like kind of procedurals and kind of CSI, that kind of stuff, then you may want to check it out. 4 out of 10. Have you seen it? What did you think of it? Just leave me comments, and I'll look forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now.